I have a personal announcement. I've been wanting to do it for a while now. On September 11th, hashtag never forget, I completed recovery. Is that what you call it? It's not rehab. It's not rehab. Don't get me wrong, because it was, first of all, it's outpatient. And second of all, it was really quick. I was never diagnosed with substance use disorder. It's very important for a lot of reasons that don't really fucking matter in real life, but they matter in the world of legal things. But I did go to recovery, something called Relapse Prevention, where they try to make sure you don't do drugs, I guess. And in celebration of completing it, I thought I'd have a little Coke. Right? I thought I'd do that with you guys. We just have a little Coke here to celebrate my graduation from recovery. And, you know, they say a little Coke just helps you kind of get through it, right? Here's the thing. There's a lot of chatter or whatever out there about like what I've been doing and how much I hate my life and my kids and everything, and which is why I'm obviously just sitting around snorting cocaine and drinking a bunch all day, which isn't true. That sounds fun, don't get me wrong, but it's not true. I take something like 5 to 7 urinalysis a week. I'm sure there are ways to try and fudge the 50-year system of urinalysis, but it's not like easy to do, I don't think. And the easier thing is to just not try to do that, because when the government says, hey, like, don't do drugs or liquor, you just don't do the drugs or liquor. That's the easy answer for some people. Now, some people it's not so hard or not so simple, right? I was in recovery with a bunch of other people, and they were cool. Like, they were cool, but they're all drug addicts, so of course they're cool or whatever. That wasn't conducive to recovery. No, but they're all like really nice guys and stuff. They're all just mostly addicted to meth. Now, I don't know if you know anything about meth, but a meth addiction is not like an addiction to much else. There was a fentanyl guy too, but mostly meth. And it's not the same thing, and you realize that you're not, well, I realized that I was not in the same like caliber of issue that some of these guys were, and it was really interesting. Now, of course, they had different programs than me, right? Like, it was supposed to be that way. Some of them are in there for like a year. And again, it's outpatient, but I don't know. It's like 5 hours a day. It's very aggressive. But some of those guys are in there for like a year, and they have to show up 2-3 times a week. Whereas for me, they're like, show up once a week if you want. But then I could show up more. I typically went 3 times a week until I was done, because I wanted to get finished. Did they take your shoelaces? No. It was outpatient. I wasn't in a place. I went there in the morning, and then I went, like, it was like a class, kind of. You just, like it with like a group, and you talked about your feelings and stuff. And some people like got mad through phones, and other people made ramen, and we watched Mystery Men. It's interesting being in a place where, like, you do drugs to like go party and have fun, and then the government's like, you need to do something about your drug problem. It's like, you're like, well, I could just not do drugs, like, that's fine. You just try that, like, can we just do that one? Like, that's cool. They're like, no, you have to do a class that says you're not doing drugs. Like, but that doesn't make any sense, I don't even want to do them. And they're like, no, you gotta go do this. So it's, okay. So you go in there and you're sitting next to someone who cannot leave the building without a supervisor, because if they leave the building, they'll go buy meth. And you're like, I don't feel like I belong here because I don't want to go do that at all. And I don't have like there's never a compulsive need to do it, but the government has like a checklist that they go through, and they go, okay, we have this situation. Here's what we do, and that will make the person better. And I'm just like, this doesn't work at all, because I have no, I mean, again, the not doing drugs is easy. I don't know if you guys know this. I'm going to guess the majority of you are not doing drugs right now. I said this before, I'll say it again. And I know there are addicts who get offended by this, but not doing drugs is pretty damn simple. It's the default state of humanity to not be doing them. And so people are like, well, how do you not do drugs? It's like, well, you just kind of like don't do it. You don't do it at all. And they're like, well, how do you not drink alcohol? It's like, well, miserably, but you just don't drink alcohol. You know, that's like how normal people are. But when you have addicts, they can't not do it. They can't not do the drugs or the liquor or whatever it is, whether like gambling addictions, whatever it is they're addicted to. They can't do that. And it was interesting being around that, because like you hear about it, but unless you've dealt with an addict or two, like you don't ever experience that. It doesn't make sense. Like to your brain, it doesn't make sense. So for me, I love whiskey. I think it's great. I can't wait for when I can just have a glass of whiskey again. It'll be fantastic. And I absolutely will. That being said, in the meanwhile, the government's like, you can't have whiskey right now. And I was like, all right. And the day they told me to stop having any alcohol, was like, that was the day I stopped having any alcohol. And it wasn't difficult to not have it. Like there was no concern. Some people, they're like, well, they're going to go out and have liquor. And it's like, but why? Like you're going to get in trouble. Big trouble if you do that. So why would you do it? And I don't know. I don't understand that. I don't understand how addiction functions in some people's brains that way, because like it's not my experience. So that was a really interesting part of recovery, was being in a place with people like in that scenario. Because Lady Raggeds and I have never had that issue with anything at all. But it was I've never had to deal like with addicts, and I don't want to oversell it here. I didn't have to deal with addicts. I got to hang out with addicts in a safe setting with this group environment. And one of the videos we had to watch, guys, I was dying, because it's a video called Lapse, Relapse, and Prolapse. And it's got a black guy talking about prolapse with the white chick. And the black guy's like, when I was on cocaine, I would have a prolapse every weekend. And I'm like, bro, stop. Please don't ever say that sentence again. Please don't do that. And I don't know why they were so intent on saying it, but it was good. It was good, but mostly, you know, recovery was they combine like a mental health thing, and they combine that with substance use, I guess. And they put you in a room, and this is what I want to stress to you. I'm sure recovery works for some people, but the program that they had me do just didn't amount to much of anything. And it's fine, because like I said, I don't care. Like I don't have any desire to go out and have drugs or alcohol. So it's not a big deal. But I was like, what good did this do anybody? Like, what? Some of these guys are in there for a really long time. They're in there for a year. And they're not all in there because the court requires them to be in there. And so, like, for them, it's not the same thing. Like, if they're struggling with addiction and they buck up and they're like, oh, well, they go and grab an 8-ball of meth or whatever, they don't go to prison because they're not on probation. Some of them are, but not all of them. So it was an interesting experience. I wanted to just say there's just been a lot of talk about, like, all the things I'm not doing and accountability and accepting responsibility. And it's funny because there's a bunch of people out there who talk about doing that. And they're like, oh, this is what someone has to do. But that's, it's just a concept to them. Like, they're not being asked to accept responsibility or take accountability of anything they've done, like, in any real way at the time. They're just pontificating about it, and that's fine for people to do. But people want, like, an instant result, and they want all of this stuff to have its, like, the whole story play out. But the story is not so quick, and the telling of the story doesn't get to be fast because we're on a government timetable. It's not mine. It's like people I got phone calls the day after I was arrested that said, plea out, go to rehab and plea out this week. And I'm like, you can't even do that. Like, you're not going to get the county attorney here to have a plea offer ready, and you're not going to negotiate one out in a week on this case. You're just not. You could in, New York or LA or Chicago or a large jurisdiction where they handle a bunch of drug cases. But out here, like, for reference, my case number is 341. That means in Kandiyohi County in 2024, my case on May 23rd, was the 341st case in the county. All right? That's how the numbering scheme goes. The 341st case. That's not a lot of crime. Right? That's 5 months into the year, they have 340 cases. Now, if you contrast that with someone who's charged with something up in St. Cloud, for example, who just had a hearing, his case number is 6910. Now, granted, there's several months of time between those two charges. You go from May to August. But that's 3 more months. And we're almost 7,000 cases in that county versus 340 cases in mine. And if the progression is linear, it would have been around 700 to 800 cases in my county. Actually, if you look at April's case, you can find out kind of that linear progression of case numbers that they've had. Whereas the other one is significantly higher. Different counties have different ways of dealing things. Just weren't going to get through that case in a week. It wasn't going to happen. They don't have the same machine. That being said, the other part of that was people said, go to rehab. Check yourself into rehab. And people wanted me to go to inpatient rehab to do 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that. And they're like, that'll be good. And that's not how rehab works. It's also not how the law works. And it wouldn't have made any sense to do so. It's like you're watching TV or something. It's like, just go. You just go. Like, you have to have a diagnosis, typically. Now, if you're rich and a celebrity, you can go to rehab, and that rehab is basically a really fucking nice detox resort. Sure, they have all of that stuff. But real people who have real problems and real court cases, you don't just go, I'm going to just run and I'll just check myself into rehab. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, who cares? I'll just be in there. You can't just do that. And pile that on with, we had a family law case going with our kids involved. Like we couldn't be gone for 6 to 8 weeks. They needed us here. They needed us to do various things and meet various goals to go ahead and resolve that. The practicality of law in the criminal justice system is so much different than the impact people seem to give it. And it clashes heavily with their expectations and their desires for a quickly resolved story. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. The story's got a long way to go. KCP says he's drunk. Guys, I have almost daily urinalysis tests going back to June. I can't drink. Oh my God.